Hey guys, Jeff the Nature Guy, of course, here at Zoo Montana. And you remember, this week we're talking about controversial animals. Remember, controversy meaning disagreement. And in the animal world, there are a lot of animals that people often disagree about. And I gotta tell you, in the state of Montana and really out in the West, probably the most controversial animal, this one right behind me, the wolf. Now, I want to talk about this because I think it's a very important topic that we need to discuss in this part of the country, but unfortunately people are so heated or angry about this situation on both sides that sometimes we can't have good conversation about it. So let's talk about the pros and cons, and I'll let you make the final decision on whether or not you think wolves are good or bad. Now, first of all, one thing I want to get off the table is there's a lot of controversy about wolves killing off the elk population, meaning that if there's wolves in the environment, there will never be any elk. That's just simply not true. In fact, elk and wolves have coexisted for over 10,000 years. That's not the problem. The problem are people. And unfortunately, as people come into the mix, that's when the controversy really starts. So we have to take that off the table. But let's talk about cattle, because when it comes to where the controversy really started, it was the cattle. When people brought cattle in and the wolves started predating on the cattle, meaning eating the cattle, that's when the controversy started. So let's talk about the negatives first. And really the big negative is that wolves, sometimes they like to eat cattle. However, I do have to say that out of the 94+ million heads of cattle that are in the West, very, very few have been killed by wolves. In fact, only less than 1%. Most cattle are killed by disease. But if you talk about predators, what predators are taking cattle? Actually, coyote, cats like mountain lions, and believe it or not, even vultures. And vultures are scavengers, but they kill more cattle every year than wolves do. That's pretty amazing. But that said, they are still controversial. I get it, and that's why the government is really putting into place some pretty good measures to help reimburse ranchers when their cattle are killed by predators. Now, let's talk about the good of wolves. What do wolves do good? Well, I think it's obvious. We've talked about in Yellowstone, if you take a top predator out of the food chain, you're going to have dire consequences. Nature is very, very delicate. And if you change the structure of nature, you're going to have some pretty bad consequences. And what happened in Yellowstone, you take the predator out, the elk, the deer, all those animals get eaten by the wolf. They come down because it's safe. They eat all the vegetation, it kills rivers, it dries up the soil. It has really dire consequences. On top of that, we also believe that wolf packs actually help the spread of disease in the elk population and the deer population. Because when there's a wolf around, elk stay together in a group. They don't spread out. The more they spread out, the more disease is spread. If they're together, it actually helps the population of the elk. So you can see there's definitely a pro and a con to both of them. But again, like we talked about with the beaver last week, usually when you look at it, it's the animal that comes out ahead of the game because they have been coexisting for thousands of years. When you add that human component, things start getting messed up. So whether or not you like wolves or not, you got to admit they're pretty amazing animals. Those big long legs, they're great at running, they're very quick, they're excellent as a family group, they're pretty neat to watch. And if you're lucky enough to see one in the wild, you can see just how beautiful they really are. So, controversial, you betcha. Beautiful, you betcha. But we're here to kind of show you both sides of it, and certainly make up your decision at home. Pretty interesting to talk about. Guys, until next time, I am Jeff the Nature Guy here at Zoo Montana. We'll see you real soon.